I am embarrassed to admit this. When I was still drinking, I would get anxious at just the thought of not drinking. It gets worse. It wasn't even the thought of quitting forever. Just the thought of not drinking on a Friday night would make my palms sweat like a priest getting a DM from Chris Hansen. My mind would start racing and I would say to myself, I like drinking. Why would I not do it for a night? I've earned my reward. Besides, what will I do? Sit around sober and have tea? I don't want to be a boring person. I knew this was an obvious sign that I had developed an unhealthy dependence. So I did what anyone else would do in this situation, and I pushed these thoughts down, deep down, and I would just pour a drink. At least that's what I did until I started to question my behaviors, and I tried to have an honest evaluation of my drinking habit. Then after several 30-day sober experiments, many of which I failed, I quit for a year. That year has now turned into almost 2 years, and now I guess I'm a sobriety influencer. Let's just get into the video. In this video, I'm going to give you a few tools you can use to start looking at sobriety differently. But first, a disclaimer. Please keep in mind, while I am very charming and the quality of my video, it's great. At the end of the day, I am just a dude with an addictive personality who happens to have an internet connection. I do research my videos, and when possible, I try to use peer-reviewed research. I link my sources for each video in the descriptions if you want to read more on your own. Keep in mind, I also share a lot of personal anecdotes, which are not science. If you are struggling and are concerned for your health and safety, contact a doctor as soon as possible. Back to the video. Chain smoking cigarettes, guzzling down coffee, and eating boxes of donuts are all staples of the Alcoholics Anonymous stereotype. All of these people are engaging in something called either substitute addiction, cross addiction, or replacement addiction. This is a simple concept that happens when a person with a compulsive behavior swaps out one behavior with another. It's also fairly common logic that it's not ideal to eat boxes of donuts and to chain smoke cigarettes, but it's certainly less destructive to someone's life than alcohol or drugs. In my opinion, you shouldn't shame yourself for replacing alcohol with sugar, cigarettes, video games, sex, so on and so forth. But your self-development quest, it shouldn't stop at just ditching the booze. You need to get to the root of your compulsive behavior and stop being a hybrid of the Cookie Monster and Oscar the Grouch. And clinical addiction specialists tend to agree with this logic too. There was actually a study done at a rehab facility where they divided people into two groups. Group 1 was full of smokers and the second group was non-smokers. After a few years, they checked back in on the groups, and the group of smokers had a higher probability of relapse. Now, there are some addiction replacements that are healthier than others, but you still have to be mindful of these replacements. Personally, I started to become obsessed with running even before I completely quit drinking. I honestly think getting sick of running hungover helped me quit drinking, but as I've progressed into my own sobriety, I have started to prioritize mindfulness practices. I'm not perfect, but I'm at least aware of the problem with replacement addictions, and it's something I'm always trying to be mindful of. Even after almost 2 years without any alcohol, I still will find myself romanticizing the idea of a drink. Early in my 20s, I was slightly obsessed with the idea of being a Bukowski, a Hemingway, a Hunter Thompson. The list goes on. And as I've gotten older and the more I have learned about these authors' personal lives, the less romantic it seems. But I still want to be an interesting writer and creator. I just don't want it to come at the expense of my mental health and the lives of my partner and my children. And for the record, since I've been a dad, there hasn't been glasses of Chivas Regal, cocaine, or guns in my life. There is only one Hunter S. Thompson after all.
Into the grass. Giving the ice enough time to absorb the chlorophyll.
One of the few ways I've stopped romanticizing alcohol is honestly, it's with this channel. I've started learning the science of addiction, and I share what I learn in these videos. I'm starting to make peace with the idea that I am different than someone who is a take it or leave it drinker. For years, it drove me crazy trying to master the art of moderation. I thought one day I would crack the code and I would no longer obsess over when I would get my next drink. But the more I have learned about addiction and how it affects the brain, the more I have learned that the neural pathways I've created through either nature or nurture, they're there, and they're never going away. If there were a pill that would reduce most of your anxiety, it would help you lose weight, sleep better, improve your sex life, and it might even make your family love you more, that would probably be one of the most popular medicines on the market, right? That's what removing alcohol has been like for me. Like someone gave me a pill that gave me the ability to start having the confidence and energy necessary to improve literally every area of my life. And to be clear, it's been work, and it is still not easy. I have bad days. Work doesn't always go the way I want it to. My partner and I, we still have struggles. We have to work through these together, but alcohol was only adding to all of these problems. I mention all of this because a common resistance I hear when I tell people that I've quit drinking is, I don't want to give it up. I don't want to give up alcohol. But the quickest rebuttal I have to this sentiment is, you're not removing anything from your life that isn't enhancing it. Alcohol might temporarily enhance your mood, but you have to examine it as a whole. You have to look at the anxiety that comes before you drink if you struggle with moderation. You have to look at the next morning, the hangover, the low-grade anxiety, and the depression that are associated with overconsumption. And with all of the recent scientific research being done, the more we start to realize that there's literally no healthy amount to consume. I often have to remind myself that I didn't remove anything from my life when I quit drinking. I added sobriety, I added mental clarity, and a sense of calm to my life. These are all reminders that help me stay sober, because it does get hard. Even after the first few days or weeks of detox, you can still experience withdrawal symptoms emotionally, which is why I created this video about post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And if you're thinking about quitting and you want to know what to expect after the first few weeks, I'd recommend checking it out. And thank you so much for being here. I'll see you again soon.